Hi guys, it's Opus. How's everyone doing? Good, good, good. I very much hope with all of my heart. Today I am reviewing another Amouage fragrance. I'm reviewing Amouage Opus VIII. This will probably be the last Opus one I do for a while because I have now steamed through all of my samples and I don't have samples of number 10 yet, but I probably will try and find one and review it for you. But I've done quite a few of them so far, so if you do want to check them out, just search Opus Amouage Opus, and I've done a bunch of them. But today we're doing Opus VIII. This is described as an aromatic woody, I think, or maybe an oriental aromatic. Something like that, I'm not really sure, but it came out in 2014. I do think this one was kind of possibly aimed at men more, but we don't care, do we? We do not care. We wear what we like when we like. So, yeah, I've worn this a couple of times recently. As usual, I have to get involved with it. Sorry, put my phone down there. And just the first thing I want to say is, look at the colour of this thing. I think this thing is the one that comes in the white bottle, so maybe you don't really get to see the liquid, but the colour of this liquid, to me, reflects in the way it smells. Anyway, it's all about the difference between perception and reality, or dreams and reality. It's a very loosely based concept. I do find that with a lot of the Opus ones, and quite with a lot of the Amouage ones. But it's not a bad thing, because I'm a fan of their fragrances. Their fragrances are great. So anyway, let me read you the note list. The note list for this one is relatively more simple than a lot of the other Opuses that I've smelled, and even Amouage fragrances in general. Some of them have really extensive note lists, but this one's kind of cool, so I'll read them out to you and then I will tell you how it smells and how it wears and all of that other stuff. So the top notes of this one are three flowers: jasmine, orange blossom and ylang ylang. Note, they have completely taken away citruses. You are straight into flowers with this. Florals are normally in the heart of fragrances, but this one's just skipping what would traditionally be top notes in French perfumery, at least. The heart notes are frankincense, saffron, ginger, vetiver and gaiac wood. And then the base notes are balsams, whatever that might be, that could be anything, benzoin, and then Jamaican bay, or bay leaves as we know it. So how does it smell? So let me just get this little sucker out of its packaging. I've already worn this a few times, but I just totally missed myself there. Let it dry, otherwise you might burn your nose with alcohol. So this one is, I would say, one of the more, I guess, unusual compositions that I've smelled from them in this line, not talking about their main line. This one has a lot of different things going on at once, and you get pulled in different directions. Sometimes I feel like it's juxtaposed, sometimes I feel like it's harmonious, but mainly, the first thing I smell in this is, of course, this floral bouquet, but it doesn't really, to me, smell like any of those three flowers, jasmine, neroli and ylang ylang. It doesn't smell like any of them in particular, but it feels like a white floral experience. But the way it smells is, in terms of its tonality, is it's almost like white flowers have been dipped in some kind of syrup, or it's like an oily white floral. That's one of the elements that I get straight away. It's really unusual. In terms of a white floral, it's not in the traditional sense of a French tuberose or a dirty French jasmine or an Indian kind of jasmine. I can feel elements of each of those flowers at once, but they are shrouded in this oily, syrupy, high-pitched feeling. That's one side of it. The other side of it is a mixture of an aromatic feeling coming from bay. The bay leaf is very strong in this. It gives a dry edge behind everything. There's also greenness coming from frankincense, and then there's a touch of sticky, syrupy woodiness that's a tiny bit smoky from gaiac. Gaiac wood is quite a rich but also syrupy and smoky wood, and those are all of the main things that I smell straight away. So syrupy, high-pitched, verging on kind of sharp white florals. Lots of greenness that's kind of bridged between an aromatic edge from bay, but also a resinous green feeling from frankincense. Like I always say, if frankincense isn't smoked in a fragrance, it's actually green. It has limey facets. It feels like a very strong green type resinous feeling. So that's what I get from this all at once. It's a lot. It's an Amouage. This is what we're dealing with. They always have multiple things going on at once that are always really fun to try and pick apart, and this one is no different from any of the others. There's something else that I notice in this fragrance when I smell it when it's wet, and that is something that feels just on the touching on skanky and also a little bit medicinal. I think it's probably this bay leaf that makes it feel almost like apothecary type feeling. I know that sounds really bizarre, but kind of like ancient herbs and just something that feels a little bit old and kind of medicinal. I'd said that, but that's just the way it feels. So that's another element that's in there. It's not super at the forefront. It is just an accent of the fragrance, but it's white flowers, greenery, and there is just this tiny touch of something that's medicinal and possibly animalic as well, and I have no idea where the animalic side would come from. It's probably just a combination of things going on in this fragrance that happens with Amouage all the time. So when it starts to dry, I have noticed that this fragrance isn't one of the super morphers, but the character changes and the tonality of it changes. Once the benzoin starts to kick in a little bit, if you don't know what benzoin is, it's a resin again that's kind of likened to caramel and vanilla. It's in the caramel vanilla family. It's a lot softer and a lot more manageable though, and it's usually used in fragrances to give a lot of longevity. If it's used in the right amount, it can enhance the longevity of a fragrance tenfold. From my studies, that's what I learned. I've never actually used it myself properly, but it does actually change the character of the fragrance without letting any of the other notes die out. So it sweetens, it softens, the top kind of sharpness. Oh, my phone's ringing. Every time I do a review, my phone rings! So the benzoin softens it, it sweetens it, it doesn't dull down anything, but it does take away that syrupy, sharp, and kind of dry herbal edge that was at the beginning. So that's where it goes. It's actually dry here. It's so much softer and sweeter here, but it never goes cloying. Benzoin is a sweet note, but in this one, I think it's kind of used to just give a bit of a fluffier edge, I guess. The fragrance isn't fluffy at all, but it just dampens down things a little bit where it's not so medicinal and weird and green and fun. This is fun. From there, it doesn't change too much. That's pretty much where you're going to be left with. It has a lot of different tones that sometimes feel like they mesh and sometimes feel like they don't, but it's a pleasure to wear anyway. It's an Amouage. It's great, I think. And the longevity of this one is great as well. I get at least 8 to 10 hours out of it. But of course, towards the end, it's a softer, sweeter, aromatic floral. So that's all I'm going to say about it for now. If you want to get this fragrance, head on over to natino.co.uk. I'll post a direct link below. Link below. I'm out on my logo, get my logo down there to subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon for another video. Probably in October now. More autumny things, hopefully. Yeah. Speak to you guys soon. Goodbye.